What's going on, y'all? So I just want to do a quick breakdown on my gold trade. I have everything drawn in, but I'm gonna go over this step by step from how I see the charts. And if you follow along, good. If not, I could try to help you out, but um, you'll figure it out. So you got this push back, pull back, and then price breaks that high. So price is bullish from here to here, from here to here. Then we have a new pullback. Price pushes all the way up. So it breaks through this high from this low and it makes us a new high way up here. All right. All right. So let's delete all that. I'm going to draw this in with our, little marks. Put this buys bullish. And then we have this little high right here. Shift. Cool. So if price can come back below this and start making its way back above like it is right now, we have a closure back above this high. I'm targeting this up here as the target, and this here is liquidity. I don't like to talk about liquidity because you really don't need to know it. Just following market structure, you are gonna target liquidity anyway. So I don't really like to bring it up because people start trying to focus on it and find it and stuff like that when you don't have to. But after this push down, price never closed below this bearish candle, right? And then once we close above this bearish candle with this candle right here, that's what tells me this is a low. And then price also was breaking back above this high with that candle closure. So we got a big push up. Price closes above this candle, above this one. We just keep on closing above all these candles. Even this little teeny tiny candle close above that one. And so now where this succession of bullish candle closures is, and not just bullish candle closures, they have to close outside the range of the previous candle, right? So that's why we ignored all of this in here because it didn't close outside of the range here or here, right? So none of this here matters until we get to this candle. And then we close above that with this candle, and then this one, and then this one, and then this one, and then this one, this one. We close above this one, and now we get a closure below this candle. This one doesn't matter. Why? The big doji, because first off, there is a volume gap. And when I see volume, when I see a volume gap, I treat it as if the bullish candle had to close. This is a bearish candle, right? The bullish candle had to close where the where the bearish candle opened, right? The open and closes of candles should always be next to each other. Otherwise, it means there's a gap. And if the open of this candle is here, that means that this bullish candle had to close up here is the philosophy I go by, which means in this sense, if the bullish candle closed here, then that means this doji is inside the range of this bullish candle. So I have to wait on a closure below the bullish candle. And we get that with this one. But then we close below that with this one. Then we close above this candle with this one. That tells me that this pullback is now over. And because we didn't close below this low, there's a higher chance that price is going to turn around and come here. Doesn't mean it has to, but there was weeks of buying before price decided that it wanted to turn around and go the opposite direction. And then on a lower time frame, there's ways that we have that we can use to monitor that too, right? And so price closed above here, making this the new low. Price closes above this candle. Everything that you see here is in the range of the candle. So as long as we're in the range of this candle, we're going to be more so looking for the buys, and that makes the structure even stronger because we are already looking for buys from structure, and now we're in a bullish candle looking for the buys, and that's exactly what ends up setting up. But it took 1, 2, 3 days to do something, right? So we got this low, price comes up, we close above this candle with this one, and then we can't close above this candle before we close below it. And even if we do, because I just saw something, we have this high right here, right? So it looks like it hit the high before the low, which again, there's a volume gap between these two candles. So that would just mean this bullish candle closed above this one, and now we need a closure below this low to tell me that we're starting some form of a pullback again. And so we come up to this high and we made a lower high because this high is lower than this one. So now at this point in my mind, I'm following the bearishness in this candle. That's why price pulls up and then it continues down and it even reaches the target. The target when you're counter trend, because the overall trend of this is up. The trend, not the trend, the target on a trade that you take counter trend should only be like this is a daily chart and you're taking the trade in here to target this daily low. But I would just say don't even do that because I don't even do that, to be honest. Um, there's just too much movement back and forth. And so we finally end up closing below this candle right here. This black candle closed below there. And so now we close back above and that makes this a low, but it's a higher low because it's higher than the previous low. So we have our little pullback. And now at this point, if we close above this candle like we did, that's what tells us this is a higher low. We also are headed back towards this high because price is overall bullish. And when price is bullish, it attacks highs, right? So we just continue with these bullish candle closures. We close above that one with this one. And then this candle opened all the way up here, which again, like I said, means that to me that this bullish candle closed up there. And so we get a closure below this bullish candle there. Even if we didn't do that, closure below this candle and the closure below this candle happened on the same candle. So the closure would still be the closure, you know? And so this tells me again, now in my mind, we should stay above this high if we're going to remain bullish. Not high. That's a higher low. Now this just became a higher high because we broke above this high, right? Now with this in mind, the closure, we have to follow the candle momentum now until it lines back up with bullishness, which is the reason why none of this shit matters because it's all in the range of this bullish candle. Then we finally close below this bullish candle with this, I mean, not bullish, bearish candle, with this bearish candle. And so in doing that, we also close below this higher low. So now in my mind, it makes more sense to be short. And on another account that I have, I was taking shorts in this until we'll find that out when we go to the lower time frame, right? And so this candle gets a closure below with the next one. This candle here gets closed below by this big wick right here. And then everything in this candle doesn't matter until we make this here. Now on this time frame. So what you could do as a person who's trading this time frame only, like the daily, is you could put a long right there, stop loss below this wick, and target this high, which I hate that trade because that's not even, that doesn't mean shit to me. But then at this point you can just target further, right? But instead of doing that, we're gonna go down to, let's leave those drawings on there. Let's go down to the 1 hour because some people were following this by using the 4 hour. So let's start on the 4 hour. I didn't like the 4 hour because on the 4 hour, this was the previous low. Price broke that. And so from this high, let's change our color to like purple. From this low that got broken, we're bearish from here down to this low. So that means all of this in here, break right there, break right there, break a structure down right there. There's this pullback, and then it's just heavy bearishness from there. So the 4 hour could have worked if you were following on the 4 hour for what I was trying to trade. So I didn't use that. I used the 1 hour instead. I'm not gonna go over the trends and stuff up there. We're gonna focus more so down here because I started taking Echo, Alexa, stop. I started taking shorts after price did this. I had a different account I was trading, and so I was looking at shorts in this area. Now, the 1 hour has a high of right here, right? And this was the low that got broken. So price was bearish from here to here. So what I was waiting on is for price to break on the 1 hour bullish, but you would have been having to wait forever, and price already started to build up some more structure from that daily low. So this is that wick on the daily, and then from there price came up and it made this high right here. And I know it made a high because on this bearish candle here, this bearish candle closed below the candle before it. The candle that it closed below was responsible for a closure below this candle. And so long story short, these are the most important candles. Everything you see in here, 1, 2, 3, 4, don't matter because they're in the range of this bearish candle. Now this bullish candle gets closed above, and then this one gets closed below. That makes this a high. Then this bearish candle turns around, gets closed above, making this a higher low. Now at this point, price could still continue down below this, and so it made a lower high by closing below this bullish candle with this one. So now we have our lower high, and then price comes up here and it closes above this high, and everything that we see as far as candles goes for the next 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 candles for the next 8 hours. Those are all inside candles of this overall candle here. And then we get this break right there. So now that tells me the break above this is also what told me this is a higher low. So now we have our lower high, higher low, lower high, higher low, higher high. Now, in breaking this above this higher high, we also are back above this level. And this level is, if you know who Trades by Sai is, or if you follow him, we have our point, indication, correction. And now this right here was the start of a new indication. So because we never closed below this low, as price starts to cross back above this orange line right here, we can expect bullishness back to where it went the last time it crossed. It crossed right here and took us all the way up there. It crossed right here and it took us at least to right here. And so this would be a TP and this would be a TP too. And so long story short, just giving you a quick reasoning behind why I'm looking for what I'm looking for. Price also is breaking above this high. And so not only is it building up higher lows as it's starting to build, it's breaking over the lower highs. And so we create a new high in the market by closing up below this candle. And we push down and then we start to come back up, making a new, this is a higher low, which should have pushed up and made a higher high. But instead, now the last place that we pushed up from was here. So let's put a little green box on that. This is an impulse. Right now, I understand that that impulse is inside of this bearish impulse. And so the only reason why I started getting involved right here is because we were really, really, really close to this 1 hour high. And I really, really believed in the longs. And we also were building up overall this bullish structure that was just, it was hard to deny it. Right. And so we break this low and we come down and we make a lower low. But we just broke this high and this structure is just bigger in general, right? So I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna wait until we either get above this box, not above it, but wait until we get to the low of this box and just see what happens from this point. And so price ends up, what did it do? Made a lower high and then it just continued all the way down to, so we closed below this one. And this just continued really all the way down to this low before we had our pullback and a new push down. Now at this point, I'm looking at price like, okay, we have this point right here. And it's not for support resistance purposes, I swear. We have this point, and then we come up here and we make a lower high, lower low. But again, it's all happening inside of this big bullish push, right? And so I'm like, all right, cool. Where we could have followed some of this, but now we're at the point where price made a lower high, and now it is failing to make no, it made a low, and it's failing to make a lower high, and so the price just keeps on trickling back up, and now we're back to this point. We create our lower high, and some people probably would have gotten into a short right here. I did not, because I wanted to see this low right here break first, because we just came down and respected this low. So I'm not just going to short into this low when it already had time and opportunity to break right here and it didn't. And so that ends up creating these equal highs that got broken. Right. And so once we get this bullish push right here, once we got this bullish push, I was like, okay, now it's time to start getting involved. So from the 1 hour, I went down to the 5 minute. In order for me to take a trade, all of the time frames have to line up, and I don't mean there's internal structure and external structure. External structure is something like what we have going on here, where the 1 hour is bearish, the internal structure is bullish, and so you're like, okay, do I wait for the 1 hour to go back bearish? In this point, it already, like I said, already took out this high right here, so it had its chance to go bearish and it failed. And then it turned around. So now, in order for me to be taking shorts again, I got to wait for this low right here to break. And then I'm targeting this high for longs. Whatever longs I take, this is the target. Because who says the price is going to break this high, right? And so let's put that line on there as this being the target for whatever longs we end up taking. All right, cool. And so following the structure again, we got this pullback and a push up on the 5 minute. Price goes bearish on the 5 minute. That came from this set of highs down to this low. So in order for me to take a long on this, regardless of what the structure looks like, I want price to be bullish above this. And so, I mean, it did pull back and it made this lower high, higher low, and then it broke above that and in between this bullish range. So I kind of could have used that, but I wasn't comfortable with that on the 5 minute. I'm comfortable doing something like that on the 1 hour because the 1 hour holds more weight. But on the 5 minute, for instance, something like this. Now, this is a little different because price is bearish at this point. Over here, price is bearish, so we should be looking for shorts. But there is this instance right here where price pulls back, pushes down. We're in this little bearishness. We break bullish right there. We have this pullback and this push up. And so now the price is coming down. It closes above this candle. If you enter right there with a stop loss right here, you get taken out. And so that's the reason why I like to wait for the 5 minute to line back up. I didn't know what was happening. I like to wait for the 5 minute to line back up with the higher time frame. And so yeah, anyway, here to here. Now this gets a break right there. And instantly there was a pullback. And you could have entered a long right there. But the reason why I didn't is because we're already creeping pretty close to this high. And we already are creeping pretty close to this high too. So I was like, okay, we're following these impulses. I want to see a pullback before I start getting entered. And so I ignored this one and just waited for price to break down like it did right here. There was also this break right here, tried to push up and it failed. Also breaking this low, continued down a little bit. Then we had our pullback to here, push down, tried to close below here. We couldn't, but then we ended up breaking above. Yep, these highs right here. We broke above them. And then this was the pullback. We never closed below this low. And from here, I got involved on the 1 hour, but this was literally the perfect entry New break right there. There was a small pullback, and I could have entered. If I was going to enter on a 5 minute, I could have entered just like this. Close of the entry, right? I mean, on the entry, enter on the close. Stop loss under not this low, but under this candle right here. TP at this orange line, which would have hit my 1 to 3. I would have taken a partial there. Even this wick coming back down wouldn't have taken me out. Just let the rest run, and I entered or exited like most of it right there. So I'd have been up 1 to 11. But that's not the trade I took. So let's go to the 1 hour and go over the trade that I actually took. So as price was crossing back above this, I did, like I said, I wanted to wait until there was a retracement, and the retracement came right here. And then on top of the retracement being there, we also broke above this high right here. Right. And so my entry was just below that, because if we follow the candles on the 1 hour too, we close above this candle, then below here, then below here. We close above this candle and just keep following the closures. Now we're on this candle. Now we're on this candle. And now we're in the range of this candle, which we close below, making this a new high above this one. Then we close below here with this candle. We close below. And then there's a closure above on this candle right here. So my entry, quite literally, I don't know if you can see that, but my entry is literally right at the high of this candle. The high of this candle is 4,587.27. My entry is 4,547.79. So just a few seconds after this candle closed, I entered. And yeah, that is the way I entered the trade. Entry was right at the high. Why do I do that? Right at the high. Stop loss was supposed to go. No, what was the close on that candle? Hold up. The close of that candle was 45, 47.73. I got in at 45, 47.79. So it just moved just a little bit. And so entry was there. Stop loss goes just below this candle, because it gives a little bit of breathing room below the wick of this candle. And then my first TP was, what time is this? 12 a.m. I was going to bed and I was on the 5 minute. And I got out because I see the 5 minute was bullish from here to here. Really actually this low. But what I didn't like was price came down, and it came down to this point, and then it started trying to push up, and then it broke. And I was like, I'm about to go to bed. It kind of made not a real low, but it made like this little point right there, broke it, came back up, and then came back below it again and started to like dig lower. And so I was like, okay, I'm just gonna close a part of this now, because I was trying to secure what I have on this trade as profit. And then when I woke up this morning, price was back up here, and that's at my 1 to 3. So I just closed the rest of the trade at this 1 to 3, 1 to 2.95. But anyway, 1 to 3 is what I was targeting. And so now I'm looking at this as price is bullish. We just closed above this. There was a small pullback before this push up. I was saying earlier that based off of the structure that we saw from this point, from here to here, there along would make sense, but there's news at 10 o'clock, so it kind of wouldn't make sense to force that right now. But in this pullback, this bearish candle got a closure above it right there. So the stop loss would have been below this candle right there, with a target a little bit higher up. And I'm glad I didn't take that trade, because I kind of felt with all of this wicking back and forth and these bigger candles, the bodies and the wicks are about the same size. There was no way to really be sure that price was going to continue up. There never really is, but we got a break that came from this high down to this low. So the market is bearish on the 5 minute. This is our retracement that I said I want, because we just closed above this, and this, and even this 1 hour high up here. So let me go ahead and get rid of all these damn drawings that I got on here. Damn, I drew up on this. And turn mine back on. So this is a 25-minute video. Hopefully it's helpful. Now I'm gonna just set up my 1 hour chart to match what the structure actually is right now. Yeah, 1 hour is bullish from this low to this high, because we also closed below, and this is a real pullback for me because we are also pulling back on the 1 hour. We closed below this 1 hour candle, so now I want to know when we close above here. So it's the pullback has started because we closed below this 1 hour candle. We are paying attention to this high right here. Price did come back down and hit it already, but I mean, it's still bearish on the 5 minute, so I'm not going to take this trade. In order for me to take this trade, I would need to see price break the 5 minute high, come back, and then go. So the 1 hour is bearish. The 5 minute, I mean, the 1 hour is bullish. The 5 minute is bearish. Yep. And so I'm just waiting for the 5 minute to go back bullish above this high. Or if it can dig deeper into this, as long as we stay above this, if the 5 minute goes bullish, then I can start looking at the 5 minute long again. But yeah, that's it for how I entered, how I followed the trade, where I entered, exited, and just how I'm looking at the market. So I hope this is helpful.